I was watching the news tonight and I was wondering whether Steve Bannon was on his way over to Bill's Seafood to have lunch today,
He got caught just in time.
right off Westbrook, huh?
Yeah, pretty funny.
Well, it was a 150-foot boat, so it may have been, in front of several towns at the same time.
Or 90 degrees halfway between Connecticut and Long Island. Big. Did we ever hear anything from Brian?
I did not hear from Brian. We heard that Giselle can't make it last minute and Elliot may not be able to make it.
Right. That I did see, but.
Good evening, everyone. Hi, Dave. I just
Hey,
wanted to let you know, I told the interns they didn't need to sign on until 7:15. So.
No problem. And we'll if they get a little rowdy, we're going to look to you to get them in control.
Yeah, I'm sure they're going to be fine.
That's actually, I'm sure you know,
There's Sarah.
you're the second item on the agenda, so it probably won't be till a little bit later than that we get to it.
Yeah, that's what I figured, but I figured 7:15 would give them a little bit of a buffer at least.
Hi, Sarah. I didn't know you were going to be on this call.
Oh,
Are you back at Berkeley?
no, I'm in Los Angeles right now.
When do you go back?
Saturday.
Oh, have fun. Anna goes back on Saturday too.
Really exciting.
I know. We'll see how long it lasts.
Hello, Peter.
Hey, Ron, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Chairman, have you changed the rules? We can drink and smoke during the meeting.
I
saw a cigar.
Can is must, I believe, is the most recent ruling. Unless you're an intern.
So Joel, did you get my email? Where'd it go?
Did I get an email?
From me after last meeting.
Oh, yes, I did.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. I meant to respond and life in 2020 caught up with me. I didn't.
We're still
I
friends.
didn't lose a week.
Jim, you guys are still friends, but he's not getting you any more Peacoats or anything like that.
That's right.
You're on your own.
Okay.
I will keep buying your syrup.
I apologize
It
to
is darn
getting
tasty.
him off.
For anyone who hasn't tried Jim's maple syrup, it is darn tasty.
Joel's going to make you pay full retail too.
Yeah, exactly. No, I owe him some discounts now, that's for sure.
Ron, we might have everybody that's confirmed.
Yeah, give me an inventory, Dave.
So please, if I don't call your name, let us know. I have John Mathers, Ron Clark, Ron Bodenson, Joel Miller, Dr. Hay, Peter Roos, Jim Madison, and Joe Banofsky.
So if my thought process is correct, we're missing Elliot, Giselle, and Brian.
Yes.
All right. Well, let's move forward then. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to August 20th. We need a mute from somebody, please. Welcome, everybody, to the August 20th, 2020 meeting of the Madison Planning and Zoning Commission. The first item on our agenda is application 2010 in the DVD. It's at 634 Boston Post Road, map 38, lot 112. The owner is Davis Realty LLC. The applicant is JP Morgan Chase Bank North America. It's a site plan review, an application to the Downtown Village District for a major modification to demolish the existing 4,133 square foot building and construct a new Chase Bank location with new utility service that will include remote drive-up automated teller machine and associated parking. Before we start, I would like to seek, it seems, all three alternates. Is Dr. Hay, is she here? I didn't hear her name. She was
Yes,
planning.
she is here. Yep.
Okay. Hello, Doctor. I'd like to seat you for Elliot.
Okay.
Commissioner Peter Roos for Giselle. And Rod Bodenson, if you would be so kind as to sit for Brian Richardson.
On.
So with that out of the way, the only other question before I turn it over to Chase Bank is, Dave, would you bring us up to date on what happened with wetlands?
So Wetlands approved the application a month or so ago. And since our meeting, we've had the opportunity, and Jennifer will probably go over this, but we've had the opportunity to have a couple subcommittee meetings from some ACCA members and Chase, and then went before ACCA, I guess it was just last week, for a final recommendation. And, you know, I can add to that after Jennifer's presentation.
Okay. So with that, I'll turn it over to, I guess, Jennifer. Hello, Jennifer.
Hi, good evening. My name is Jennifer Porter. I'm the attorney for the applicant, JP Morgan Chase Bank, and we're here tonight, as you heard from the chairman, in connection with our application for site plan approval for property located at 634 Boston Post Road. We previously appeared in front of the Planning and Zoning Commission, and as Dave Anderson pointed out, since that time, we've gone back to inland wetlands and secured approval for our permit. And also, as Dave Anderson indicated, we've had two very productive meetings with representatives from ACCA, where we went over in specific detail some of the comments and outstanding issues related to the design of the building. After those two meetings, we successfully met with ACCA last Tuesday, where they gave us their advisory determination, subject to a couple of conditions to which Chase agreed. And with that, we are here before the commission this evening. I wanted to note that at the last Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, we presented our site plan, but at that point, our elevations were a work in progress. And so therefore, other than briefly show them, we didn't really give a lot of detail. And so we'd like to present the final design that we arrived at based upon our meetings with ACCA for the commission's consideration this evening. In addition to that, we have had several discussions regarding our signage package, and so we're prepared to present that to the commission as well. And if it is the commission's preference, we can certainly start with a brief overview of the site plan to the extent that there weren't commission members present at the last meeting, or if you'd like a very quick overview of the application.
I think the overview of the site plan would be helpful for everybody, Jennifer.
Great. Well, then let me first introduce our project team, and then I'll turn it over to our site engineer. So on behalf of Core States, we have our site engineer, Matt DeWitt, who will walk you through the site plan and give you that overview. Then we will turn to Patrick Jones, our project architect, who will walk you through the changes and the final proposed design of the architecture of the building, as well as the signage that's being proposed. In addition to them, we have other representatives. We have Victor Antonio, who's worked in connection with the site engineering for the project since the beginning. We also have Chris Seska, who is our managing director of real estate, involved in connection with the deal for this location. And then we have Rich Dortis, straight from his vacation, to join us in connection with any and all of the construction aspects regarding the project. So if there are no preliminary questions, I'd be happy to turn it over to Mr. DeWitt so he can share his screen and walk you through the site plan.
Great. Thank you, Jennifer.
And
Thank
Ron, briefly before he starts, I noticed that Tom Berlin's joined us as well.
Oh, forgot about Tom.
Hello.
Welcome,
There you
Tom. We're just starting on the application. For
Great.
the check. Didn't miss anything, Tom.
Okay.
Okay, Jennifer.
Okay, Mr. DeWitt, I see, can everybody see the shared screen? I do see a Zoom. Yeah, okay, good.
All right, yeah, just for a quick overview. So we're all familiar with the site on Boston Post Road and Miggs Ave. We are demolishing the existing building and rebuilding a brand new Chase Bank, 3,280 square feet, in basically the same general area. We will have one-way traffic coming in from Boston Post that will leave on Miggs. I believe right now there's 34 parking spaces and we're decreasing to 17. So we are removing some pavement from the site, adding some more green space. We're adding a stormwater infiltration basin on the southern side near Texas Brook, and that's to treat some of this rainwater coming off the parking lot that did not happen in current conditions. The other difference with the existing building to proposed is we're going to have a remote drive-through in the back of the site as opposed to the attached one today, and that helps out with the queuing, you know, so you don't have cars backing out onto Boston Post, and you won't have cars blocking the parking spaces directly opposite the building. We will be doing all brand new landscaping, you know, fully maintained, irrigated. We're planting, I believe, at least 9 or 11 new trees on site, various shrubs, flowers. Chase does a great job, you know, after construction with maintenance and making sure everything's irrigated and, you know, still living as it goes. We are proposing to do some streetscape improvements along Boston Post with some new curb lines, and that was in an effort to blend in with the future streetscape project that will happen, as we understand, along Boston Post. So we are making an effort to put a new walkway out front, brick pavers, you know, that will integrate with the new streetscape in the future. You know, the site will receive new site lighting with fixtures that really face down on the parking lot, trying to shield as much as possible from neighboring properties. So I think we've done a good job with that. You know, some evenly distributed lighting. We're trying to provide enough lighting near the ATMs to provide 24-hour access, you know, so there's a safe space to walk up to the drive-through, to the walk-up ATM in the front. We'll have lighting. There'll also be lighting, you know, at the drive-up, so you can use it at any time during the night, which is a pretty, you know, standard practice with these remote ATMs. It's really pretty much the brief overview of the site. It's going to, you know, the flow is pretty much similar to existing with some improvements, as I mentioned, with the stormwater reduction in impervious area that the Wetlands Commission appreciated. And also, I think the traffic flow will be better, you know, coming one way off Boston Post, and then the diagonal parking spaces along the western side of the site, where we have our ADA accessible spots and a nice safe route for them to cross right across the driveway, right to the front door, as opposed to traveling from a farther distance. That's really a brief overview unless anyone has questions.
No questions from anyone? All right, thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Okay, so next I'd like to turn it over to Patrick Jones, our project architect, to walk you through the elevations as well as the proposed signage.
Thank you.
Okay. These are the rendered elevations based upon the elevations that we presented to the Appearance Committee last week. The building that we are proposing is as you can see on the west elevation on the top of the screen, is a 2-story building in the front facing Boston Post Road, which you can see on the north elevation. And as the building tapers down to the back of the site, or as the building moves back towards the back of the site, the building tapers down in height to a 1.5-story section and then a 1-story section, which is the back of house second entrance to the building. The building will be a brick building and stone. So we will have brick on the 2-story section in the front of the facing Boston Post Road. We'll have brick on the 1.5-story section in the middle. And then where we have the back of house and the entrances to the building, we will have a limestone veneer entrance volume, if you will. This volume, as I mentioned before, is a 1-story volume. That volume will also have an entrance canopy on both sections. You can see it here on the west elevation over the front entry, and here on the back elevation, or here over the rear entry at the back of the building. You can also see it here on the north elevation. The building is 31 feet tall overall at its highest point. As I mentioned before, it's a brick building, and we will have some brick detailing in the form of a sign band wrapping around the north elevation, appearing again on the west elevation, and across the east elevation, across the 2-story section and the 1.5-story section as well. The west elevation will also have a solar shade across the windows to break up the volume, or just to break up the scale a little bit. As you can see here, that solar shade can be seen here in this elevation. This is what the solar shade looks like. Give you an idea. There were some questions about that from the ACCA board, so I want to show everybody what that looks like. As far as the signage for the building, we don't have it shown on this elevation yet because it's a work in progress right now. We have to go back to the ACCA board and talk to them or give them our final design and go back for approvals on it. But you can see on these elevations, these sketch elevations, and I think I might have shown this at the last presentation, but we are planning to have what we're calling a flag sign at the corner of the building over the main entrance, front entrance to the building. That flag sign will be similar to this. We're stepping it down in scale. It'll probably be out of some sort of an cut aluminum with some backlit lettering. And we're also proposing a sign on MIGS at the secondary entrance off from MIGS. This will be a ground sign. It will have a brick base. The brick will match the building. We will have a limestone cap on top of the brick, and then we will have the backlit Chase sign at the top of the base. The canopy, per the recommendation of, or the drive-up canopy per the recommendation in discussion, I think, with this board and with the ACCA board, we'll have a blue canopy across the top. It'll be the Chase blue. And in this instance, we will put a brick facing again. This brick will match the building, but the columns or the piers that hold up that canopy will be the same brick as what we have on the building. You can see that here on these two elevations. This is just a sample of the brick that we are planning on using for or is similar to the brick that we're planning on using for the building, as well as I think we're looking at the country beige limestone, French limestone, which will be at both entries, at both entry volumes of the building. And I think that is it for the presentation.
Right, and one thing I just wanted to note with respect to the monument sign is that we heard the comments at the last Planning and Zoning Commission regarding concern over having a monument sign along Boston Post Road. And so what we did in consideration of that feedback is eliminate a monument sign along that frontage and instead go for wall signage and that flag sign at the corner, and instead propose a monument at the side along Miggs so that it could work to better serve the traffic coming in off of that side street in connection with the drive-through.
Yeah, and I did also forget to mention, Jennifer, that they are planning on, within this sign ban, this brick sign ban that we do have around the building, we discussed this chase signage above the first floor windows here, as you can see on the north elevation. It's something we discussed with the ACA board as well.
You're talking about that being on the west elevation? You're talking about
this chase, these letters will be mounted to the face of the building on the north elevation facing Boston Post Road.
Right. Okay. No, I thought you were talking about a second appearance of the chase on another side of the building.
The only other sign, sorry, the only other sign, as mentioned, that will be up here above the we'll call the entrance volume, the stone entrance volume, and that was that flag sign that I showed the board.
And I know there was some concern from ACA about the flag sign, its size and so forth. And I happened to watch the ACA meeting. What is the actual orientation plan for that sign? How would it face?
Yeah, what we discussed with the ACA board was initially we had it coming out at an angle, like a 45-degree angle off from this corner up here. But what we discussed with the ACA board, rather than doing that, is we'll have it face the north and the south. So basically, you'll just see the end of it here on this west elevation, and you'll see the chase sign here on the north elevation. And let me go back to the sketches. It'll be something along the lines of this right here.
Okay. Well, the signs themselves are more within ACA's domain to deal with, and I know you have a little more touch-up work to do with them. But yeah. I certainly agreed with the comments they made about the size and scale of it. Went beyond just saying, "Hey, we're located here," but became an advertising sign, which isn't dominant or predominant at all on any of the banks or really any of the buildings downtown. But I'll leave it to their good judgment to deal with you folks on that. And the monument sign, in my mind, is appropriate on Meigs because you can't see the bank from there. Where with the monument on the post road, here's the bank building. What do you need the monument for? So I think it's my own personal opinion. It's appropriate from that entrance. Anybody else have any comments or questions?
Yeah, I guess there will be no signage on the signage band on the east elevation.
No, there's nothing on the east elevation. There'd be nothing along this band. This is just decorative. We carried it around to. Again, it was looking pretty massive, and it was suggested by the ACA board that we continue the sign ban all the way around to kind of bring down the massing and give the building a little bit of scale on the east elevation. But no signage in there.
Anyone else have a question or comment? Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you.
Great. Great. So that essentially concludes our presentation. We're happy to address any questions that you may have concerning the proposed project, the site plan, the architecture, any other aspects of our proposal.
Thank you.
Ron, if I could just briefly, so this application is a public hearing in the sense that it's a major modification in the downtown village district. So the public hearing is really triggered from the architectural design perspective. Other than that, it's a site plan application. And so I just want to note that for when we do conduct the public hearing, that's really what the purpose of the public hearing is. And I don't see anybody on the attendee list at the moment that I believe is anticipating talking, but we'll double check that in a moment. It was mentioned that ACCA kind of did their final review of the project. They did recommend the design be approved as presented, with the caveat that they wanted to look at the materials one last time in terms of the color of the brick, the color of the limestone, and also the final design of the signs, focusing mainly on the flag sign was their main interest. But largely, we did do quite a bit of back and forth with Chase, and I want to just say publicly that they were very responsive and very good to work with. And I think we arrived at something that I know ACCA was happy with, and hopefully it sounds like planning and zoning is going to be happy with too.
Any thoughts or comments from the commission or questions for that matter? And again, if there's anybody from the public who wishes to speak.
Yeah, I'll open that up. So this is a public hearing. I see 3 attendees on. If there's anybody from the public that wishes to either ask a question or speak, there's only 3 of you, either speak in favor or in opposition to the application, please raise your hand and I can unmute you to allow you to talk. No takers, Ron.
Okay.
You asked for comments, Ron.
Yes, absolutely, Jim.
I think, I think ACCA has done the heavy lifting on this application. Several meetings. I know they've provided a lot of, I think, very good input. And I appreciate Chase being responsive to their requests and input. So thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Anyone else? Reactions, feelings, likes, dislikes?
I might make a comment, Ron, if I could. I just want to thank Chase for their patience in pursuing this application for seems like a year and a half. And I did attend one of the ACCA meetings by Zoom. And again, what I commend them on is their patience, as both Chase and Madison tried to figure out what the Madison look was. And I think it was pretty frustrating from time to time, but I guess we now know what the Madison look is because we now have a bank that looks pretty well designed. But I'm glad you hung in there and still are going to locate in Madison. Thanks.
We appreciate Madison having patience with Chase too, because we know we don't move at lightning speed either. So we appreciate that as well.
Dave, I'll make a comment.
Go ahead, Joe.
As you probably know, I was a very vocal opponent of some of the initial designs as far as, becoming of the downtown Madison district, and was the liaison to ACCA in one of the initial meetings where Chase presented one of their designs. And I think this has come a very long way since then, and I have no objection to this design whatsoever.
Thank you, Joe.
You're welcome.
Anyone else have a thought or a comment?
Yeah, if I could, Ron. So similar to Joe, I wasn't really warm to this the first time I saw it, but I genuinely appreciate the diligence and the good faith that Chase put in. I appreciate what they've done here, and I know that it's not always easy. And the churn that all parties went through to get to this point. This is a much more appealing design in my eye. Not being an architect, right? But I do think that it fits in quite nicely into our downtown area. and I appreciate the effort that was put into it.
Thank you, Joel. Anyone else?
Ron, it's Peter. I would just say, I really appreciate the fact that they moved the monument sign from Boston Post Road and put it on Meigs. That's the place where it ought to be, and I don't really have any objections to the flag sign that they're putting up there. I think that'll be pretty subtle, so it looks nice.
Thank you. Anyone else? I'll just make a comment to the folks from Chase. Number one, I wasn't a big fan of the plans we originally saw, or that ACA originally saw, for that matter. And I, like the others, really appreciate your, as a big New York company, corporation, dealing with Little Madison so well. And I just wanted to let you know that it's not just necessarily us, that there's a community pride in the downtown area that's sometimes easy to understand but hard to explain. We have a movie theater, which is one of our little jewels in a small town like ours, that about 3 years ago wanted to change out from the old plastic figures on channels for the movie that's running to an LED sign. And geez, the whole community was out. Should it be animated? Shouldn't it be animated? Black, white, color. I mean, it became very controversial. Why? Because it was downtown. So it's not that, just us or ACA are so picky. We're proud of what we have, and we do our best to try and protect it objectively, subjectively, however it may be. So thank you for your cooperation and understanding and flexibility. I would assume that, does anybody else have anything that they want to say or add? I would then entertain a motion from someone.
Ron, just a technical matter, we should probably make a motion, if Chase doesn't have anything else to add, motion to close the public hearing first, and then
No,
motion for the application.
Me bad, yes. Like a motion from someone to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Thank you, Peter. Second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Aye.
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 Thank you. Now I'll entertain a motion to approve the application.
Since I was the most vocal opponent, I think I'll make the motion to approve.
Thanks, Joe.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any further discussion on that? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
New bank is coming to town by the looks of things. Thank you so much, Chase,
Yay.
Patrick. and
Congratulations, Jennifer, Richard.
Thank you so much
Thank
for
you, guys.
everything.
Thank you for your time.
We really appreciate it. And thank you, Dave Anderson in particular. I mean,
Yes.
I can't tell you how many countless calls and meetings and otherwise we've had trying to bring this through. So we greatly appreciate all of the effort that's been made on behalf of everyone within the town of Madison to really bring this together. So we're very proud of the end product that we have as well. And we look forward to being a part of the town.
Yes.
Thanks, Jennifer, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Okay. There were just a couple of small things that ACA has to go over, and they'll take care of that, and they'll be off to the races. The building will be torn down in the not too distant future, I would assume. Okay, we have another item on the agenda tonight that was added on during the week, and that is a presentation from, or maybe better put, through the Conservation Commission about the issues of nighttime lighting, dark sky, conservation, and those types of issues. So, Heather, should I turn it over to you for an introduction?
Okay, that works for me. Hi, everybody. Can you hear me? Yes? Okay. Okay, good. My name's Heather Crawford. I'm the current chair of the Conservation Commission. And this summer we have had 3 wonderful returning interns, Marina Dixon, Elizabeth Ozimek, and Sarah Queso. Sarah, as you might have heard earlier, has gone back to California to college. But by the miracle of Zoom is able to join us this evening for our rescheduled presentation. This was supposed to occur at the planning meeting at the beginning of the month, which had to be put off because of our friend Isaias. So I'm just going to turn it over to the interns. They've done a wonderful job with this summer, and then at the end I'm going to pop back in and hopefully start some discussion about what can go on perhaps in Madison related to light pollution. So have at it.
Whoever is going to share their screen, they should have the ability to do that.
I'll. Okay. Has it loaded?
Yes.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Today we're going to discuss the effect of light pollution on dark skies. As was mentioned before, I'm Elizabeth Osmick. I'm Marina Dixon.
And I'm Sarah Casso.
Okay.
Welcome to everyone. Thanks for your work and thanks for visiting with us tonight.
Okay, so here's the outline of our presentation. And first, we're going to talk about the 3 types of light pollution. First, there's light trespass or spill light, glare, and sky glow. Light trespass is when a light fixture shines beyond property lines, unintentionally brightening other homes, businesses, or areas. Spill light is the most subjective form of light pollution because there are no guidelines to determine when, where, or how much light is unwanted. And there are 3 types of glare. Glare is the visual sensation one experiences when visible stray light is greater than the light to which the eyes are adapted. Glare can reduce visual performance, color perception, and contrast. The first type is discomfort, which is the most common type, and it occurs when lighting causes annoyance or irritation, but does not decrease your visual performance, and physical discomfort is short-term. The next type is disability, which occurs when stray light scatters in the eye, producing a veil over the retina, affecting your visual performance. This type of glare reduces contrast as well as color and spatial perception, which can lead to unsafe driving conditions. And the last type is blinding, which occurs when a light source impairs the field of vision, preventing the eye from seeing anything but the light source, and visual performance may remain unaffected for some time well after the incident. The last type is sky glow, which is caused by poorly designed and targeted artificial lights. It occurs when light is emitted directly into the atmosphere, where it is scattered by dust and gas molecules, which creates a dome-like orange glow that covers the night sky. The glow reduces the contrast between the stars and the galaxies in the sky, making celestial objects difficult to see even with a telescope. And light domes also affect the polarization of moonlight, which nocturnal animals use to navigate. Here is the Bortle dark sky scale. It ranges from city or inner city sky to perfect night sky, and we fall somewhere in the suburban sky. Now here's a map of the light pollution in Madison, and as you can see near the highway, there's more light pollution. And here's a quote: research indicates that light pollution is increasing at a global average rate of 2% per year. So now I'm going to talk about the effect on human health. I'm going to start off with a quote. Researchers believe that without obstructions, a person with healthy but average vision could see a candle flame from as far as 1.6 miles. So basically, humans can adapt to be able to see without much light at all, and the amount of night lighting that we have isn't exactly necessary. The importance of the circadian rhythm. Humans have evolved to a 24-hour daily cycle of light and dark. The cycle is responsible for activating the central nervous system, activating biological and cellular processes, and the release of a hormone called melatonin. The release of melatonin, prompted by the darkness at night, regulates the sleep-wake cycle, metabolism, and the immune system. Circadian rhythm disruptions. More evening light delays the release of melatonin, disrupting the natural circadian rhythm. Blue light, a shorter wavelength of light, has an even stronger impact. Some of the diseases that can be worsened are obesity, diabetes, depression and other mood disorders, and reproductive problems. The increased risk of breast cancer. So a Harvard study was done on light pollution causing breast cancer, and between the least lit neighborhoods at night and the most lit neighborhoods that were in this study, there was a 14% increase of breast cancer risk, and the link was strongest for young premenopausal women. However, it is important to note that this is just a correlation, and breast cancer can have many possible causes, and there could have potentially been other factors in the well-lit neighborhoods that caused the increase.
So now I'll talk about the effect of light pollution on horseshoe crabs. So the Atlantic horseshoe crab is an incredible species that populates Madison's beaches, but sadly it is now recognized as vulnerable by the International Union for Conservation of Nature, which is one step before endangered because of the many pressures on their populations, which range from ecosystem damage to overharvesting, but light pollution also impacts their survival. So horseshoe crabs come onto the beach to spawn during full moons in June and July, but light pollution is disrupting that natural cycle since they are very sensitive to light. Each horseshoe crab has 10 eyes. In lab experiments, there has been evidence that changing light exposure might affect either circadian or circadian rhythms, which would affect the spawning of the crabs and could be a cause of their decrease in population. And since migrating birds use horseshoe crab eggs for food, since they've evolved to synchronize with migration of horseshoe crab spawning, and horseshoe crab eggs also serve as food for some fish species, the decrease in horseshoe crabs is impacting those organisms' survival as well. And the loss of horseshoe crabs could be devastating for the medical industry. Since 1977, LAL, which is made from the blood of the Atlantic horseshoe crab, has been used to test for the presence of bacterial endotoxins in injections and implants, which ensured that medical equipment is sterile. And that means that anything injected or implanted into humans needs to be tested with horseshoe crab blood before to check for contamination. So the loss of horseshoe crabs could be devastating to human health. Now a little on fireflies. So fireflies, also known as lightning bugs, use bioluminescence to light up the last section of their abdomen, and each firefly has its own distinct flash, which is used to identify an individual. Males flash every 5 seconds or so, and then females flash every 2 seconds. And since these flashes are unique to each, they're used for a wide range of functions, such as communicating with other fireflies. They're used for mating, attracting prey, and scaring off predators. And fireflies have evolved to not display during full moons due to the light obscuring their signals. And so light pollution is mimicking the full moon, which is leading to the fireflies to emerge less and flash their lights less. And this decrease in flashing is linked to a decrease in the firefly population, since fireflies use their lights to court mates. And because firefly larvae eat earthworms, snails, and slugs, their loss is throwing off the equilibrium of nature. And then I'm going to talk about the effect on amphibians, using frogs as an example. So frogs, like many other nocturnal species, are being hit hard by light pollution, since most frogs are nocturnal and continued light throws off their biological rhythm, which is based upon the natural daylight and dark night skies. And so tree frogs are being hit especially hard because they call for mates at night, but they won't call in areas with bright night lighting, which then reduces mating and decreases their population. Another impact is on the development of frogs. So as part of the life cycle of frogs, the tadpole develops lungs to breathe out of water and then also legs. But light pollution has been shown to slow down this development process. And if the tadpoles aren't able to develop lungs in time or develop their legs, the pond where they live will dry up or cool down. And this increases mortality and decreases the frog population. And then one last impact is bright lighting drawing in frogs, because those lights have brought in a lot of insects who are attracted to it. And then those frogs are put into dangerous positions on driveways and roads where they are run over.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about the effect of light pollution on birds. I'm going to start out with these 2 quotes. A recent study estimates that between 100 million and 1 billion birds are killed in the United States each year as a result of collisions with buildings. In an article in the Science Daily, scientists report that they found an increasing density of birds closer to these cities. The effect goes about 200 kilometers or about 125 miles. We estimate that these flying birds can see a city on the horizon up to several hundred kilometers away. Essentially, there's no place on the northeastern United States where we can't see the sky glow of a city. Okay, so artificial light can attract and disorient birds at night, which creates collisions and messes up their migratory paths. So when they're being drawn to these urban environments, traffic noise and artificial light can cause birds in the city to become active earlier than in natural areas, waking and singing as much as 5 hours sooner. And lots of birds pack into a small area with limited resources, which means there are higher mortality risks. And there's a risk of collision with buildings, vehicles, and getting eaten by cats. Changing a bird's migratory path can have consequences, as a change to their path can cause starvation, risk of death, and arriving late to their destinations. And flying in these greater densities, vocalizing loudly, fatally colliding with structures and other birds. And now, burrow nesting seabirds that are attracted to and disoriented by these artificial lights can cause landings, which can induce collisions with human-made structures or the ground that can fatally injure birds. Grounded birds may be unable to take off again and are vulnerable to predation, vehicle collisions, starvation, dehydration, or poaching.
So now I'm going to talk about the effect of light pollution on trees. So starting out the photoperiod itself is how many hours of consecutive daylight there is within a 24-hour period. Photoperiodism is the physiological reactions plants and animals have depending on their exposure to the periods of lightness and darkness. Light pollution will extend the photoperiod, causing plants to react different than they are supposed to. So on the slide, you can see like some of the ways they react differently. And when artificial lighting is used at night, photosynthesis continues. The day has basically been extended. This promotes continued growth, which prevents trees from entering a dormant state to survive the winter. Younger trees are more susceptible to these cold injuries because they have a tendency to grow for longer periods of time. As you can see in the photo, the right side of the tree has dropped all of its autumn leaves, while the left side, which is right next to the street light, still has its leaves. The delay in the dropping of the leaves is because of the artificial light at night. This will result in the tree being less cold tolerant and more susceptible to storm damage in the winter. This table shows the sensitivity of trees to artificial light. The column on the left, the one with the red box around it, shows the most sensitive trees. So if you are growing any of those trees in your yard, it's essentially counterproductive to add a lot of lighting to your yard because it will kill all of the trees.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about outdoor lighting. Unshielded light fixtures emit more than 50% of their light skyward or sideways. In many instances, only 40% of the light emitted actually illuminates the ground. It is estimated that 30% of outdoor lighting is wasted due to this poor design, and in the United States alone, wasted lighting accounts for 1.7 million tons of carbon dioxide and $2.2 billion in wasted electricity each year. Okay, so now we're going to talk about good versus bad outdoor lighting. Good lights provide visibility, safety, and a sense of security. The energy use, operating costs, and glare is minimal. For bad outdoor lighting, a light bulb can be seen from a distance, which is a waste of energy and disturbs neighbors. Some lighting systems illuminate areas about 100 times more than the full moon. Okay, so now let's talk about what energy waste is costing you. Here's one statistic that I would like to touch on. About 35% of light is wasted, which in turn is about $3 billion lost per year. This is about $10 spent for every man, woman, and child in the United States every year. For post-diode lamps, we recommend using a fixture with an opaque top to help direct light downwards. Note that bulb shields prevent side glare. For billboards and signs that are lit at night, use top-mounted lights that are focused downward onto the board. And for electric street lights, they should be as dim as possible and use longer wavelengths of light.
Okay, so the picture on the right compares some good and bad light fixtures. The main idea is to only have your light directing downward to minimize light pollution. And if you have a wall pack that is emitting light outward, you can fix it by adding a visor, such as, this is an example, a PAR shield, outdoor floodlight shield. And now I'm going to talk about the best bulbs to use. The yellow HPS bulb is a good kind, but if white light is needed, you could use a CFL or a metal halide bulb. To make the bulbs even better, put the lights on timers or have motion detector switches for them.
So I encourage you to use this infographic to figure out if your property is dark sky friendly. You need to ask yourself, does the light serve a clear and necessary purpose? Does the light reach beyond where it is needed? Is the light connected to active controls? Can the light be dimmer and still perform the needed task? And is the light source warm in color? Now I encourage you to do this to figure out if your property is dark sky friendly.
So now I'm going to talk about some light pollution do's and don'ts. So you do want to install a color temperature app that on your phone that automatically limits blue light on devices at night. This is just for your own health. You do want to hang blackout curtains to keep your light inside and others' lights outside. You want to use red or amber night lights because they're the least disruptive and they have longer wavelengths. You want to use indoor light bulbs that emit a warm white light with a color temperature of around 3000 Kelvin. You want to turn off lights when leaving the room. Don't create light trespass onto neighboring areas. And don't illuminate signs after 10 p.m. or before 6 a.m. unless it's necessary.
Thank you so much for listening to our presentation, and we encourage you to appreciate the dark.
Here, here.
Hi, so I hope they have won you over completely. And so one of the reasons that, we wanted to look at, bring up the idea of light pollution again, and have them work on that presentation, which I'm sure we will happily forward the connection to all of you so that you can look at it again. And spread it around. But
Just on that note, so I don't forget to say, this is being recorded and broadcast on the town's YouTube channel. So we can link either the Conservation Commission website or the town website to this too, so other people can view it. Perfect.
All right, so we've been getting increasing, there's been a number of very vehement complaints recently and over the years from individuals who are having trouble with neighbors who are shining lights into other people's houses, and when approached politely are very negative about it. We've also, and in many, several general conversations, even when we were hanging the banner that we had up during the spring that you just saw in that last slide, while hanging it, the gentleman that does the hanging was like, oh, I hate light pollution. I've got neighbors that lights come right in my window and I can't see out. And so it's more of a problem than many people believe. And as more information is coming up about the health problems and the environmental problems, I look at it as or the commission looks at it as sort of like water pollution was in the 50s and 60s and then into the 70s. It's like, it was, not a big deal, not a deal. Now the rivers are catching fire and we need to start regulating this. I think light has become something that people are accepting more and more and more of, and now we're realizing that it's really causing some very negative impacts, and there needs to be perhaps more control. And if people will not do it voluntarily, there may need to be some regulation. So one of the slides, what we would like to start a discussion on this evening is what could Madison consider doing? And in the slide that would have been my follow-up is like, we have options in education, possibly in regulation, and then in perhaps providing some incentives to people. So, there's we've now got some people right in the school system that are now well-versed in the issues of light pollution. But it's also something that can be part of, through the new science standards, there's some information on that can be built in and emphasized quite nicely. And then some general public education, I think in terms of like the handout that the interns included in their the presentation. There's just information like that about that people just often don't realize that, the fact that they can see their shadow against their neighbor's house means perhaps that their light is going too far. And then the third thing is that it's because so many of the interactions that I've heard about have been negative between neighbors, is that there might be something the town could do in terms of, if you've approached a neighbor and had a negative issue, that if there could be something within the town structure where either there was an ordinance there is something within the current zoning regulations which say that no land, building, or premises shall be used in any manner that'll create any objectionable noise, smell, smoke, light, or radio or television interference. It may be time for Madison to start, having some way of dealing with that on a neighbor to neighbor basis, whether it's through an ordinance or through a, okay, there's been a complaint by your neighbor, there's this light, can we provide you with a shield so that the light does not go off of your property? Anyway, those are just some of the initial ideas that have been thrown around within the Conservation Commission. And so I would like to talk with the planning and zoning because we're advisory. You guys are the ones that make the rules. So I guess that's where I open it up and say, what did you, and if you all have any questions for the interns, please ask them as well. So.
Well, thank you, Peter, and certainly Elizabeth, Marina, and Sarah. Great amount of work, a lot of good information, and a lot of, as I say, it's complicated, the issue itself from perspective ordinance. But I'd also suggest, I think we probably have some members of the public who are watching this, wondering if they have any questions they might want to ask any of you four about what you presented. Dave, do you have any of those folks on?
Yeah, I know two folks that I've spoken to about lighting issues in the past are on as attendees. That's George Barnes and Sana Stanley Santa Stanley. So I guess what I'll do is I'll just unmute them sequentially, and if they want to talk, they can talk. If they don't, they can simply say they don't wish to. 1 second. So George, I'm going to start with you if you'd like to talk.
Certainly, thank you. Yeah, my name is George Barnes. I live on Wildcat Road in Madison. I like to joke that I have probably the best lit house on the street, and I don't even turn lights on the outside. We have tried the methods discussed before, and I've talked with Mr. Anderson, trying to talk to the neighbors. They've been very adverse. They've even lawyered up, accusing the light trespass on my property as being my fault for cutting down trees in my yard. Ironically, trees that had to be cut down were trees damaged by light trespass. Oaks, maples that have been damaged over the course of years and during the course of winters, the branches become damaged and ultimately fail. So I'm unable to maintain a tree buffer to prevent the light trespass onto my property. It's a little discouraging that the thought process is, well, if I don't want light on my property, it's my business to prevent it versus the contributing point, the source point being the control point. I do also want to mention something, and I'm sure the zoning department's well aware of it. There are state statutes regarding publicly funded projects that do not permit light trespass onto properties. So there is a precedent about controlling light trespass and excess glare. So this is not a new item. This is something that's being regulated at a state level. You're simply following suit by putting together stricter regulations. It's something as simple as, the light can't leave your property, glare beyond the property lines. Something as basic as that would probably be sufficient and would help both the zoning official in writing a stronger letter and neighbors to have a stronger point in the event that they needed to do more on the civil side in order to prevent light trespass. Thank you.
Mr. Barnes. George. I'd be interested to see what the state statute is. I think, the hard part for me to try and quantify is what becomes objectionable. You cannot have light just stop at a property line like it's a dog fence. And in some respects, if it's an absolute, you couldn't have a porch light in Madison south of the Post Road, because every time it was on, somehow it would, cross the property line. And, it's a challenging issue. I'm not saying it's not a real issue, but it's a challenging thing to be able to reasonably deal with from a regulatory or an ordinance perspective. And maybe even more so these days with so many, it seems to be more people lighting their property all night because of what's going on with car thefts and those types of things. It's a challenge, but one that certainly can't be totally ignored.
Yeah,
There's another speaker, Dave.
yeah, potentially. I'll ask Ms. Stanley. I'll unmute you. And you may need to unmute. There you go.
My husband's going to talk. Paul's gonna talk.
Yeah, my name is Paul Craig. I live with Santa Stanley on Harkins Drive, and I suffer from claustrophobia. And one of the first things anybody says when you tell them you're having a problem with light trespass is put in blackout blinds, you know, wear an eye mask, and that doesn't work for me because I've got my choice of either waking up in a panic because I'm sleeping in a cave or having the neighbor's lights keep me awake all night. So, that's all I wanted to say. It's a tough situation.
Well, I'll add something because I'm the one who is more vocal to the neighbors, but I object to the lighting. It doesn't look like a lot of light during the daytime. Like when the lights went on this evening at 6:30, they didn't look very bright. But in the middle of the night, when your eyes are dark adapted, the human eye dark adapted is a minimum of 10,000 times, minimum, not maximum, 10,000 times more sensitive to light than in the daytime, which means that even a small, like little tiny light is glare in the middle of the night. So in my house, I cannot look out any window without seeing either a street light or neighbor's lights. And most properties on my street have 4 lights at least, 2 on the front of their house, 2 driveway lights, if not wall-packed lights on. And even if neighbors turn them off at 11 at night, am I supposed to wait until they turn it off? I did write Mr. Anderson a letter when I asked to be on this meeting, and I have other people who speak to me and complain to me, but they will not speak to their neighbors. And here's why. The neighbors have the power. Like my neighbors have a switch. They can turn their light on whenever they want, and I can never turn that light on unless I put in blackout blinds. That means my entire property is lit. And it doesn't have to be a lot to disturb fireflies. I have no more fireflies. I have no more Luna moths. We have had a couple trees near the edge of the property that did need to come down. But most of all, there's a lot of ill will with the neighbors because we asked them to please allow us the choice. We would have said, could you turn your lights down? Could you shield them? Would you turn it off earlier? And they refused. And so we're in kind of a bind. I mean, the neighbors essentially, you know, are we supposed to move? But it's not, I don't think it speaks well of Madison. But, anyhow, that's all. It's been a real problem for us.
I'd just like to say this is a great presentation. Thank you very much to Heather and the interns. Really well done.
Awesome, awesome job.
Thank you both for your comments. Commission members, do you have any questions for
Ron?
Elizabeth?
I would, if I could. I was going to ask a question, but you answered it in your presentation, but you might want to put it on your written materials too. You come down to is your property dark, friendly at night? And it says, yes, yes, the light is warm in color. You don't say what the lumens are, but you answered it in your presentation, 3,000, but you might want to put that on there. As far as incentives, one thing is, I don't know if the subdivisions in town have homes associations or not, but sometimes they, the association could help control lighting if there are rules or the board. Here in Windermere, we have 86 units. They're freestanding homes, but we're in a homes association of condominiums. About a year ago, we undertook to replace all the lighting in West with 3,000 lumens LEDs. So suddenly we had all the same color of lights because we have them on garages, front porch, and on the ground. They were better shaded or restricted, and they're all on timers. East, which has 86 homes adjoining us, it's sort of, you can't tell there's two different, wasn't interested in doing that. The incentive then became, we showed them that we were saving about 45% in electricity every month. East just voted to spend the $8,000 to $9,000 to make the changeover to LED lights, these same lumens, and now the entire development will not only look consistent, the lights won't be, as bright, they'll be functional, and we'll be saving money. So incentive can be on the money side of it. And the final question, Heather, is can we get a copy of the presentation? I'd particularly like to see the list of the trees again. But I don't want to steal anybody's presentation, but I actually, have made a presentation in against certain commercial settings when I was not on the board because of the lighting. But I see in Madison, they're all now bragging. They come to you, Cunningham and other lighting people say, "Oh yeah, it's a total shield." What's the phrase?
Dark sky compliant.
Yeah, but there's a certain all down. So we're getting a lot of commercial cooperation. I think others could speak to that.
Yeah, I know that from the Conservation Commission point of view, when there's been commercial or some those sorts of applications, they're very wonderful in it because the town regulations have really been strong about it. It's been the existing residential and new single development residential that really hasn't been addressed on. And that's where the problems are. I think one question that, and I will be happy to either send you directly that the article that list came from.
Okay.
So I can do that. I can send that to Dave, and then Dave can.
All right, great, thanks.
Because that it's a wonderful article that was put out basically on tree health and light pollution. So it gives you all the background, not just the list.
Great, thank you.
In terms of Ron, your comment earlier about it's really difficult to regulate this sort of thing. And you're right that anywhere down in downtown Madison in particular, if you turn a light on, it's going to shine on something else. One of the things that in doing all the research that the interns have done and that we've been doing over the years, it seems that it would be one way that it could be made objective is that if you can see the actual light bulb, not just the glow from the light, the actual light bulb from the border of the property, that's a fixture that needs to be corrected. Because if you can, if you have a shield over it so the light's only coming out in different angles, you can really direct light these days. But if you can see the bulb, I mean, there's that one particular house on Horse Pond. Whenever I'm turning out of town campus at night after a meeting, I look left and I'm like, those are oncoming vehicles, and it's not. It's unshielded open light fixtures, and it's just like they're glaring at me, and I think they're oncoming traffic. So it would be one objective standard, because it just saying glare once light starts bouncing around. So when I was talking earlier with the interns, it's like, once a photon starts going, unless it's absorbed, it goes forever. Light that shoots straight up is the reason you can see the lighting in North America from the space shuttle. It just keeps going. It's got nothing to stop it. So by shielding it, by directing it, and by minimizing it, one of the ways that you could at least have a start at it would be, say, if you can see the bulb from the property line, that's a fixture that needs to be corrected. How that gets done, whether it's through regulation or through offering bulb shields, is something that could use some more discussion.
But, that's interesting. Thank you, Heather. Anyone else on the commission want to comment or ask any questions?
I have a comment, Ron, and this isn't probably providing any kind of solution, but I did want to say when the interns were going through the presentation, the one slide that showed the night sky, I grew up in upstate New York in a rural area, and I can recall going out in January when there was no humidity, no anything at the top of our property. And to see the Milky Way, it is just breathtaking. And we don't see that here. We can't. I mean, we have lighting from the cities and even, you know, what we're producing here, but it's a shame because it's an unbelievable sight. And I'm sure most people have seen it and where they've gone to areas like that, but it would be great to be able to get that back here.
Now, was there electricity back when you were a kid? Or was it the kerosene lamps that were glowing in the sky? I'm not sure.
You're muted, Jim.
Yeah, no, there wasn't electricity then. I mean, it came along when I got to be 40.
Well, I remember, well, when I was, you know, about, I suppose around 11 or 12 years old, I was at a Boy Scout camp up in Winstead, which is out in the middle of the woods, and going out and the Telstar satellite, which had just been launched, big helium balloon actually that AT&T launched, but you could see it from Earth. And I was quite impressed with how much clearer the sky was from up in Winstead than what I was used to down here along in the New Haven area. So I know what you're talking about. I remember that quite vividly. Anyone else?
I wonder who has the cricket.
It might be Ron.
That's me. It came over to my house from John Mather's garage. It's out here on my patio.
I might say that the
Thank God.
interns might consider adding what is the newest threat to destroying night light or darkness at night. And that's, they claim, putting up all the satellites that are going, hundreds, if not thousands of new satellites are going up, and they are reflecting the light from the moon or sun, sun that hits them back to Earth. And now they're worried that the dark sky is the biggest threat, newest threat is will be our own satellites going up.
Considering the number of satellites that I can see going over my house on an average night, when there's no cloud cover and when the neighbors' lights are off, when we had the power outage 2 weeks ago, I was like, oh, satellite, shooting star. Yay.
Hundreds of more are going up.
Yeah.
They're affecting the time-lapse photography a great deal from astronomers. And in fact, I read yesterday, SpaceX just launched a rocket this past week with 86 new satellites on one rocket. Small communications type. So, more to come, I guess. So there's nothing else from any of the commission members, thoughts, comments, questions? All right, well, Heather.
Ron, let me make a comment since none of the commission members. So I was, you know, I think maybe a next step would be if Heather, the Conservation Commission, the interns, and potentially with my help, were to maybe draft up some ideas of either regulations or ordinances that might try and address this issue more effectively than our current regulations do. And then present that to the commission, you know, in the near future when ready to do so, provided the commission's open to that more detailed conversation, I think would be a positive next step out of this.
Great idea.
Yeah, great idea. I'd like to see that.
I think we're all in agreement on that. Thank you, Dave. It's an excellent point.
Okay.
Heather, Elizabeth, Marina, and Sarah, thank you ever so much. It was enlightening. It was interesting. And
Thank you. And thank you, interns. You've been awesome. And Sarah,
Now-
good luck
now
in
go to
college this
school.
year.
And let me
night,
just say, as the other Ron, I appreciate it. Have a good night, everyone. All you folks. Thanks again for the presentation.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was an interesting presentation, and I think we all got something out of it. To be continued. I think it's absolutely important that we do that. Next on the agenda are the minutes. I don't have a printed copy. Elliot would, but he's not with us, so I would suggest we hold off to the next meeting to handle that. and jump right into comments. I don't have any for this evening, but Dave, you may.
Yeah, I have one comment, and it's not entirely speculative, but I haven't been provided documentation yet that our 503 Old Toll Road saga, I think, has ended with a potentially different tenant leasing that building. Been informed that actually a daycare operation has leased that space. And I believe Dr. Hinckley is exploring another opportunity in Madison to locate his office professionally. And I had been talking to both sides of that equation and was awaiting some kind of written confirmation. But I'm saying this with a high degree of confidence that I think that's what's going to happen. And I believe that all parties are happy with that outcome. So
Was the lawsuit ever filed?
There was an appeal filed that is actually still active, just because, again, the documentation hasn't been provided to everybody in terms of that lease arrangement, and it's a kind of a complicated situation. And so the appeal may continue to move forward on that, but I've been actively talking to Pete Gelderman and Ira Bloom, keeping them involved in it. The town's obligation, should the applicant wish to, I guess, fight the appeal, would simply be to kind of go along for the ride. We wouldn't do a lot of heavy lifting and spend any real town dollars necessarily fighting that.
But David, if they were not going to Dr. Hinckley isn't going to locate there, then the lawsuit would be moot. What's
Well, not necessarily. So there's the applicant, who is the lease person that was going to lease the space, but then the owner of that property also benefited from the approval. So the owner of the property got approved a special exception for professional office with certain conditions. So if another potential tenant came along as a professional office that could meet those conditions, theoretically, they'd be able to go into that space. I don't believe that's happening. Like I said, I believe a new daycare operation is going to be setting up shop there. And the daycare had already been approved in that location. So that's why that's not coming before the Planning and Zoning Commission. But just wanted to let you know, I was hoping to have a little bit, be able to say it, even more definitively about, who and what exactly. But I just wanted to let the commission know in case there is something that comes out in between our next meetings. Just give you guys a heads up.
Dave, they do have a sign posted at the entry to the property.
The public hearing sign?
No. It's a sign that says who's coming in.
Oh, okay, good. So
the Christian something or other daycare center.
Oh, thanks. I didn't notice that sign. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Dave. And let me add, Dave has spoken to me in a little bit more detail about some of the work he's done, answering questions. And, there are really 4 parties, interested in how this thing, well, 5, including P&Z, but, you have the neighbors on Northfield, you have Dr. Hinckley, you have the other potential landlord, and the daycare people. And I've heard from a couple of them how helpful and how much work you've been done in answering questions and facilitating what may or may not happen with this thing. And hats off to you, and you deserve a lot of credit for becoming involved and trying to be helpful when you really didn't have to. I haven't spoken to any of the neighbors, but certainly with the direction it seems to be headed, they must be pleased with it. I hope they don't have an objection to a daycare center. They had
Thanks,
one there
David.
for those of us who remember, but you did a Herculean job with that, Dave, and I think everybody will fully appreciate it if it ends up going the way that you indicate that it is, and can share some of the more of the details of how you became involved and what you did to help everybody out. But it's most appreciated. It's a win-win-win-win-win situation potentially, and you deserve much of the credit for it.
Yeah, thanks. And sorry, I can't share more, but I didn't want to leave the commission without any information, so thanks.
Is it too late to change my vote, David?
I don't believe so.
Here, how we voted, I don't think anybody feels that, you know, the issue itself that we voted on has nothing to do with what's happened here. That's maybe even the best news of all.
Yeah.
But yet the neighbors will be, I think, pleased and very happy with what the end result was. And that's worth a lot. So thanks again, Dave. Anybody have
I
any?
don't have anything else.
All right. Anybody have anything else? Well, then maybe we'd entertain a motion to adjourn. No, no, to adjourn.
I'll move that we adjourn the meeting.
Thank you, Jim.
I'll second.
Thank you, Joe. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Everybody, thanks. Thank you very much. And we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Just in time for the Democratic National Convention, Ron.
Oh, when is that this week?
Yeah, it's going to happen any minute, I think.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good evening.
Thanks. Great.